All right, Wayne Bettis here, the founder of the Off the Tools podcast. I just want to introduce you to our brand new sponsor, directplumbing.supplies.com. It is founded by a former tradesman who has set up his own plumbing and heating merchants. He has an online shop, which is obviously at directplumbing.supplies.com, and he delivers across the UK. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the show.
You are now listening to Off the Tools with the one and only Wayne Bettis.
If you're passionate and driven and focused in what you do, people will take notice. You can achieve anything you want to achieve in life.
The excuses are not valid.
Welcome back to yet another episode of the Off the Tools podcast. Today, I am absolutely delighted to introduce Andrea Waltz, who is the co-author of a world-famous book, Go for No. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wayne. I am so glad to be with you today.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, I tell you, because I've never seen my audience mention this book. So I'm hoping I'm sort of opening up Pandora's box to the people that are going to be watching and listening to this. It's going to be a fantastic discussion. I can't wait to get started. But to kick things off, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction into who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been, as you mentioned, I'm the co-author of this book, Go for No. And I'm glad that we're going to open Pandora's box. That's fabulous. I'm always thrilled when people have never heard of this concept because, one, I know it's a pretty significant mindset shift, and two, it means I have more customers out there, right? We can all use more customers.
Exactly.
So I've actually been teaching this concept for the last 23 years. I started my, professional career life in college. I was trying to become a crime scene investigator before it was really popular to do that. And before there was like the TV show and everything, that's what I wanted to do. I went to school for it, literally have not used 1 ounce of anything that I learned there in my career. But at least I guess I learned to communicate a little bit. But I graduated and I took a job at a company here in America called Lens Crafters. They make eyeglass retailer. And I soon became one of the youngest general store managers. I was running of the company. I was running a $3 million location. I was running the retail side. I was running the lab side. I became a licensed optician. And I really loved what I was doing. But more than anything, I really loved the art and science of sales and customer service. And I got kind of into the training world. And that's where I met my husband, Richard Fenton. And he taught me this philosophy, this strategy of Go for No. And I thought it was brilliant. It immediately struck me as a really powerful concept. And eventually Richard suggested that we quit our jobs at this company and go launch our own business, speaking, training, and teaching people about these ideas. And that one of the things that we also needed to do was write the book. So it was a really crazy, risky proposition, but I was pretty young. I was very naive. I had no idea what I was doing, but it sounded really exciting and fun to me. So that's what we did. And that was about 23 years ago. We wrote and published Go for No. As I was telling you earlier, it was not an immediate success. In fact, it was pretty much a disaster the first couple of years. And eventually, with enough persistence and tenacity and a lot of failing along the way, after we spent 10 years just constantly marketing and sharing that book with people, it finally hit #1 on Amazon's sales and selling list. And that from there kind of took off. So wow. What's weird, Wayne, is that I wake up every day trying to teach people how to reprogram the way they think and feel about failure and rejection. But what I like to say is that I sell courage. Ultimately, that's what I sell. Is I want to sell people courage so that in the moments where they have the opportunity to ask, where they're faced with that moment, we've all been there, where we can ask a customer or prospect a question, or really anybody, and sometimes we talk ourselves out of it in our head. Well, the whole idea behind Go for No is have the courage to ask. Just ask the question. And if it's a no, meaning you go for no, then at least you made the ask and you will be far better for doing it, as opposed to regretting and wondering what would have happened if I had just had the courage to ask.
Yeah, it makes, now you can't unlearn this stuff. So like now I've read the book and done my research, I've literally got a complete different way of viewing my sales approaches now. It literally is game changing from that perspective. So thank you so much for you and your husband for creating it and getting it out there. And it's fascinating to hear that, it took 10 years to get to that number one spot, which is quite unheard of really, because books and like music and things like that, normally when they're out, they've got to sort of make that impact first. But you've just shown that perseverance, and determination has won the day on that one, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And from with books, we were completely unknown. So our goal was to have people read the book. That's what we had to do. So we had to do everything that we could to get the books in hands of people who were influential, who would share the book with other people. And that's what we did. And we just, it's a slow process, and we didn't have a lot of money to, send out books to thousands of people. So it was a book here and a book there, and asking people to read it and asking people to share it. And luckily they did.
Yeah, oh no, and then the momentum, like with anything, isn't it? Once that momentum builds, it starts to create its own energy, doesn't it? And move on.
Absolutely.
One thing before I let you, I'll try not to interject too much. My apologies. I do jump in. In the UK, obviously, that's where the most of this audience that are going to be listening to this chat today are from. We speak the same language, obviously, as our American cousins, but our mentality is quite different when it comes to sales and confidence, I would say, as a whole. I'm generalizing here. Obviously, I know everyone's individual, but especially in the trades and construction industry, many of the people watching this will never have ever considered that they're in sales, and this mentality is going to come literally out of the left field. It's going to hopefully wake a few people up. I just wanted to highlight that because I don't know how accustomed you are to the UK. I don't know if you know much about the UK's markets and industry, but it's not the same, and that's something that I've learned over these last few years of doing the podcast and putting myself out there, is that we come from things in a different way in the UK.
Yes, I'm with you on that. And we have spoken in the UK a few times.
Okay.
And the audiences that we've spoken to absolutely loved this. And and they just completely absorbed it, like you. I mean, just like a sponge. Because and most of the people that we've spoken to have been salespeople, independent business owners, entrepreneurs. And I think that generally as a population, and of course we're always generalizing, you always have individuals, but you all are more polite than we are here in America, and a little bit more reserved. Maybe, I don't know if you want to say, I think reserved is probably the answer. And nobody wants to look, I mean, certainly in America, nobody wants to look salesy or pushy, but there's a lot more of us here that are willing to go there than I think in the UK. And in the UK, it's kind of like, you don't force yourself on people and don't stand out and don't be a pushy jerk and all of those things. The great news about Go for No is that actually you never have to be that way. It is rooted in this idea that you never have to be that pushy, aggressive, salesy salesperson. You do have to flip your mindset and remember your value. And I think, to your point, for everybody watching this, you see yourself as this expert, right? You see yourself as this expert tradesman, tradesperson, and that it's all about the expertise. But of course, people have to recognize your value, and someone has to sell that. And you have to be willing to toot your own horn. You've got to be willing to stand up and say, here's what I can do for you. And also I can do this and this, and I'm really great. And you have to be willing to sing your own praises. And that takes a little bit of stepping out of your comfort zone and stepping out of your shell. So it's part of what Go for No brings for people is, I think, the confidence to do that, and understanding that it's having a to sell is to serve mindset, not about, I just am pushing you into a sale. I don't care about you or care, about doing a good job. That's the fear that, we all have, but it's how do you serve people at the highest level? And if you don't sell them, you can't serve them. And if you know that you can do a good job for people, then it comes back to having to sell them.
Yeah. That to me is the real sort of eye opener, isn't it? Is when you can genuinely help someone and you genuinely believe in what you do. It starts to not become a sale, does it? It's not about the sale; it's about the assistance, the help, yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So let me go ahead and take everybody back a little bit, because I want to share the underlying philosophy of Go for No, and then I want to share a couple strategies that people can implement immediately. How does that sound?
That sounds amazing, and I promise I am going to be quiet as I can now. I'm going to let you go through.
That is okay. That is okay. So how did we, a lot of people ask, well, how did you even come up with this? Who comes up with this term Go for No, and how does that even happen? Well, as I mentioned to you, I learned this from my husband, Richard Fenton, and we were literally standing on the sales floor of at our job, at our work. And he told me a story, and it was a story that changed his life and then would change my life. And the story goes that years earlier, he was selling suits for a living. He was working in Los Angeles as a clothing salesman at this store. And the reason that he was there was he used to live in Chicago. For those of you who know your United States geography, Chicago and LA are pretty far away. He worked under his father, who was a sales legend, and Richard was tired of that industry. It was actually the car industry. He didn't want to be in that industry, and he certainly didn't want to work under his sales legend father anymore. So he left Chicago. He moved all the way to Los Angeles. He gets this job selling suits for a living, and he is failing. He's not doing well. So he figures that he hears that the district manager, a guy named Harold, is going to come in and check out the store and see how everyone is doing. And at this point, Richard is hoping that he can impress Harold. And if he does, maybe they'll give him some time to improve his sales before firing him. He doesn't want to get fired, because that would mean maybe that he has to go back to Chicago. And that's the last thing that he wants to do, right? So the day comes, Harold shows up. Everybody has donuts and coffee in the break room that morning. 10 a.m., the doors to the store open up, and Richard gets to help the first customer who walks in that morning. And this guy happens to walk in, and he announces that he wants to buy an entire wardrobe of clothing. So Richard's thinking, this is great. He proceeds to sell this guy a suit, a sport coat, slacks, shirt, belt, pocket square, all of the things in this man's wardrobe, sport coat. It comes to $1,100, which in US dollars back then would probably be about 5,000 US today. So he has this great sale, and he's waiting for Harold to congratulate him, but Harold doesn't say anything. Finally, they have a conversation. And Richard is thinking, where is my congratulations? Where's my pat on the back? So Richard says to Harold, $1,100, did you see that great sale I had? And Harold says, yeah, I did. Out of curiosity, Richard, I want to ask you a question. Out of curiosity, what did that customer say no to? And Rich was like, just couldn't believe that strange question. What do you mean? What did that customer say no to? Did you not see the sale? He bought a suit and a sport coat and shirts and all these things. And Harold said, we know what he said yes to, Richard. I'm just asking you, what did he say no to? So Rich reviewed the sale in his mind, everything he showed that man purchased. So he had to admit to Harold, that customer didn't say no to anything. Everything I showed him, he purchased. And then Harold asked him the really important question. He said, well, then how did you know he was done? And that was the question that really hit him like a gut punch. Richard had to admit that how he knew that customer was done was that he had hit his mental spending limit. $1,100 was a lot of money to spend. Richard wasn't making that kind of money. That was kind of the most he could imagine. So when someone got to that amount, it was like they were done. He ended the sale. He rang the customer up, sent him on his way. And Harold said, your fear of the word no is going to kill you. But I think if you could learn to get over that, you could be one of the great ones. And Rich likes, when he tells the story, he always says, I didn't know if I had what it took to succeed, but I knew I had what it took to fail. I could fail more. I could hear no more often. You see, before that, he was doing everything within his power to pretty much avoid no, right? To just show things, get the yes, and then quickly bring it up and get the customer out. And so Richard turned everything around. He went in the next morning and he decided that he was just going to do the only thing he was going to worry about was just hear no more often, just show more things that made sense for the customer that he was working with. And it worked. And he became an award-winning salesman. Over the next year, he ended up moving on to different companies and became into management and leadership in those companies and training. So there we are years later, and he's telling me this story. Now, the difference is I believed that I was a superstar salesperson. I thought I was absolutely great. Customers loved me. My sales were always pretty good. Now, as a manager, I didn't sell a lot, but I was certainly responsible for everyone else's sales. And every now and then I would. So then I had to get honest and admit that I didn't like hearing the word no either, that I would hold back and I wouldn't show or tell people about certain things because I had decided in my own head that they weren't going to buy it. Maybe I decided they couldn't afford it. Now, how did I know these things? I was just making it up in my head, right? I didn't want to hear no. So I just decided they're going to say no to that. So why show it? They'll just think I'm pushy. They'll just think I'm being aggressive. And then I learned this go for no idea. And I said, you know what? I am just going to go for no. But I'm only going to make sure that I show things that matter to this person. Right? I'm not going to come up with all kinds of things that I know they don't want or need. That would be crazy. But if it's something that I think they should see, I have an obligation to show it to them because otherwise I'm saying no for them. I'm not giving them the opportunity. They might go home and decide that, wow, they should have bought this or that, except I didn't offer it to them, right? Because the reality was I didn't want to hear no. I didn't like it. And I kind of am a little bit of a people pleaser. I want people to like me. So I was interpreting the fact that if I got a lot of rejections during a sale, that would mean that maybe I was doing something wrong, or that, I was being that pushy salesperson that I didn't want to be, or that maybe they didn't like me, which was, I didn't want that. So I changed the way I sold as well, and go for no completely worked for me. Now Richard says, let's quit. Let's start our own company. So I have no idea what I'm doing. We quit our jobs and now we want to work for big companies. So I have to get on the phone and start cold calling companies to sell them on training. And one of the things that we were selling was go for no. So now I was doing go for no all over again, but instead of doing it in a retail setting with customers, I was doing it from a prospecting standpoint. I was calling people and asking them if they had meetings, if they hired speakers and trainers, and selling a completely and totally new way. So go for no is really a philosophy about asking that can be applied to any business or industry. You simply have to look at how you get business and figure out, okay, where are the times, what are the go for no moments in my business where I have to ask a person if, say, they hire landscapers. Do they need landscaping service? Are they interested in improving their front yard, their backyard? That might be a go for no moment for someone. Maybe someone's a painter and they want to walk up to a door, knock on the door and say, hey, your house looks like it hasn't been painted in 25 years. Would you like a quote? That's a perfect example of a go for no moment. So everybody can find their go for no moments. You just have to look at your business and say, how does it work? Now, if you're a painter and they say, yeah, I'll give me a quote. Maybe there's some other things that you also do, right? So maybe you suggest painting the porch, and maybe you suggest fixing up like something else on the house if you do other things. So you can quickly see how if you do that more and you increase your failure rate, in other words, you increase the number of no's you hear, and you're willing to do that, you're going to end up getting more yeses. Now, instead, what I have seen over the years, and now I've been teaching this for 2 decades, which makes me old, and it's a long time. But oftentimes what people do is they just go after those easy yeses. And so what happens is business is always a struggle, because you all know, what's an easy yes, right? We kind of have to pick and choose, and we kind of have to mind read. We try to decide who's going to say yes to us, who, maybe it's just the incoming leads or the referrals, because we don't want to bother anybody. We don't want to go out and prospect. We don't want to knock on doors or make calls. But that's where the power of Go for No can really come in, because the more offers that you make, the more Go for No moments that you create in your business, the more opportunities you have for yes, right? So it's really just changing your mindset. So that's really the philosophy and the foundation from where we can build upon in terms of both your mindset, but also the strategies to implement in your business. So with that said, we can move on, but I didn't know if Wayne, you wanted to add anything.
Before we move on, I just want to put like my version of how I've actually implemented this, what you've just said there. So once I'd read this book, I realized that for years I spent just avoiding no, because it just felt uncomfortable. It felt a bit like, no one likes this bit of a negative word, isn't it? Like, no, why should I be tracking a no in the business? After reading the book, I looked at all my data. I'm very big on data within because I run a, you call it a furnace over there, but we call it boiler, a boiler installation business. So I looked over my data and I realized that on average, over the course of the last 2 years, every single month, I would have to get about 150 no's to hit my sales quota. And for all them years before, and I've been in business for 10 years, myself, I'd never looked at the no's. I'd always just avoided them and never wanted to think about them. And for me now, I've got my little pink KPI sheet here. It's always on my desk, and and it says how many no's I need to hit this month to have any chance of getting the sales that I need. And it's just amazing when you look at it from that angle. So it just proves it can work in any industry, because I'm a tradesman in the UK, and you wrote the book based off of your husband selling ties in the States, doesn't it? So
exactly, and to your point, doesn't matter what you sell. It doesn't. It just, everybody has the same challenge. In fact, if you look at, here's a kind of a fun analogy. Take an actor, right? We all know that actors go on a lot of auditions. Can you imagine an actor, and you hear they go on hundreds of auditions to win one role or to get in one play. Can you imagine an actor going out for one audition? they get that one no, and then they wait for 3 months. And you say, like, have you gotten any roles? And they say, no, I haven't. Well, how many auditions have you gone on? And they say, I just did that one and I got a no. And so I'm done. It's crazy. No, the actors go on hundreds. I mean, they would love to go on hundreds of auditions. They send their photos and their bios out to hundreds of casting agents. It's kind of that numbers game philosophy. Now, when it comes to business, obviously, we don't want to treat people like numbers. We want to build relationships. We want to do a great job so that we get referrals. Certainly, we want to make it easier to get yeses. I mean, no is not the end goal. Yes is always the end goal. It's important to remember that. And also, you don't have to go into this from a mindset standpoint expecting a no. You just have to go into it accepting a no. It's a big difference. And so if I was coaching an actor, I would say, hey, you're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to get rejected a lot. But the more you go out there and the more you do it, the more opportunity you have to get cast in the next big movie, in the next great play. So it really does apply to everyone. So to Wayne, to your point, I'm going to start with the first strategy, which is exactly what you are doing. You are doing it perfectly correct. And that is to create a no awareness. You ask most salespeople, most entrepreneurs, how many yeses they got this month or yesterday, and people can throw out a number just like that. It's very, very obvious, very easy. But if you ask people, well, how many no's are you getting? A lot of people don't know because they're not paying attention to that. They don't think about it. They don't see the value in how many no's they're getting. So the first step is really to create a baseline of activity and to look and see how many no's are you getting? Are you that actor going after that, one audition? It's pretty easy to see if you got one no, that's where you are. So you have a huge room for improvement. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't hear no very often because they're waiting on and they're trying to find those easy yeses. In fact, I know, especially in the UK, United States might be a little bit more open, but back in the day when everybody used to go to networking meetings, I would give an example of how this assumption process works. So you go to a networking event designed to get business, right? Designed to meet people. And maybe you'd have 10 conversations and you'd meet 10 people and you'd come home with 10 business cards, all of whom you should follow up, all of whom you met all of these people, you shook hands with these people, you talked to them. But what happens is you start going through the 10 cards and you look at the first one and you say, I don't know, this person didn't seem like they would be very interested. And so you kind of throw that one to the side and then you go through the next card. Oh, this person was okay. I'll put them in the maybe stack. Then you go to the third card. I don't think this person would say yes. You throw that out. Right. And so by the end, you end up with 1 or 2 cards of people that you are willing to follow up with, but you should follow up with all 10 because, again, we make assumptions about what people are going to do, what they're going to decide, what they have to spend. It is the biggest thing I have seen. And if you take away anything from this training, that's what I would love people to remember is that we make assumptions to protect ourselves from getting rejected. If you just wipe away those assumptions and you just say, just going to go for no. And if I get a no, it's okay. I will survive. It's amazing what can happen in your business. So step 1 is create a no awareness. Figure out where you are. Step 2 is to set a no goal. Wayne is also doing this. You're on top of it. So step 2 is to decide how many no's based on kind of where you are, how many no's you are going to collect. You can do this daily. You can do it weekly. You could do it monthly. I think weekly is probably my preference. One of the things that I'm going to do next year is something called a Go for No Challenge, where I'm going to do live coaching, where I'm going to coach people every week through a 21-day Go for No Challenge. And so that's a fun period to do it as well. But you start breaking it down for a week. So maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to hear no. I'm going to try to hear 10 no's this week. Doesn't have to be crazy. When Richard and I launched our business, we had a goal of getting 4 yeses a month. And if we could get 4 yeses a month, that we were comfortable. And then we said, wait a minute, we're not doing the go for no thing. We're not living it in our own business. So we said, let's set a goal for 100 companies to say no to us each month. And if we could get to that, we'll have more business than we know what to do with. And that is exactly what happened. So we would get the 4 yeses, but we'd say, okay, that's great. We got the 4 yeses. Let's keep going for the no's. Maybe we had 60, 70 no's. That was about as high as we could get, because by the time we got to that many no's, we had more yeses than we could even physically handle, like physically deliver what we were selling, which was training. And I was selling Richard to go out there. And so there was only one him. So we were kind of limited, you get limited to a point, but we were getting the business. And when you get that kind of business, remember that that's when your value increases. And that's when you can take a look at your fees and say, you know what, I'm getting a good amount of yeses. It could be time for me to even raise my fees, because I'm not playing that other game with that lack mentality, saying, wow, I so desperately need this deal. I'll do anything for it. It has to be a yes. It can't be a no. And I'll discount it 20 or 30% because I need it so badly. That's the kind of stuff you want to avoid, because it really spirals you, into a bad place. So that was how we set no goals. Now, setting a goal for 100 no's that was tough. And that was a long time ago. Setting my no goals today are actually much lower, because I really I want a really good no. I don't, just send an email and say, oh, I never heard back. That's a no. No. I want to have them be talking about an opportunity and have them say, no, we're not hiring you. That I can count as a no. So we want to be really specific about what our no goals are. So don't feel like you have to go crazy and set some outrageous goal. You're probably, even what you do select will probably force you out of your comfort zone more than you're doing now, I imagine. So come up with something that works for you. Come up with a number of no's. One of the questions I hear a lot is, well, where in the process should those no's be? And that can be anything for you, right? It could be just prospecting new business and incoming leads and talking to people who call you and trying to get hired. It could be something like that. It could be no's within an interaction. So that you may get a yes, I'm willing to hire you, I want to work with you, but you may have products and services and things that you can offer within that conversation, which are additional no's. It was really funny. I had to rent a car a few days ago because our car is in the shop. So I'm at the rental agency. I give the guy my email address, and it's at goforno.com. And he says, go for no, what is that? Now, I can't even tell you how many times I end up doing a little mini training out in a parking lot somewhere for someone. So I start to tell him the philosophy and the story. And then literally after I tell him all of this, he's nodding and he gets it. And he says, okay, so I have to take you through the contract. So he's taking me through all the contract, and then he's selling me now I've got the rental. He's selling me the protection insurance. He's recommending like the additional like other insurance, and he's selling me this and selling me the roadside assistance. So he's getting, all of these no's. I did say yes to the super collision insurance. I figured, well, I don't want to, if the rental car is a total loss, I don't want to end up paying for that. So he got one yes. But everybody does this. So that's an example of where you could collect no's within, right, your yes interaction.
And so, people expect it from a big organization, don't they? Like, you weren't surprised, I guess, by all of these upselling opportunities. Right. But in a small business, we seem to think that we can't do that when people's expectation is that they would have been sold to anyway. Absolutely. And to your point, Wayne, people get uncomfortable with that, but it's a very smooth process.
You don't have to be super skilled to do it. You just remember how I teach people is always just look at what it is that they're getting. And then how do these other things fit within that? So in the rental car example is very obvious, right? I'm renting a car. Getting extra accident insurance is an easy add-on. It's certainly an easy reason to ask. I think oftentimes small business owners think they're being greedy. They think they're being pushy, but it reminds me of something that, and I always forget to share this, but it's something that Harold told Richard during that sale. And Harold said to him, "Do you know where that customer is right now?" And Richard said, "No." And he said, "He's at the other end of the mall spending the rest of the money that you wouldn't let him spend with us." So do you want to get all of the business and help this person as much as you can, or are you going to just have that one yes and then leave everything else on the table, and your customer will have to go elsewhere? They may call you, or maybe they'll be annoyed with you that you didn't give them the best job. Also the irony, I think, is that people don't realize this, but when people get the best, and when they get everything, their satisfaction level, and this has been researched for years, at least here in America, their satisfaction level is greater, meaning when they do the best, spend the most, say, yes, I'll take this. Yes, let's do the whole thing. And even if it's more money than they meant to spend, their satisfaction level is higher. And when people's satisfaction level is higher, that means more business for you, because it means that people say, you know what? I know if I hire Wayne to do this, he's going to do everything that they need. He's going to do the full job. He's going to take care of everything. And so I'm comfortable referring him to other people. And that is an example of a really easy, those are the easy yeses that we'd love to have fall into our lap. So there are ways that we can make that happen.
I feel like I've literally gone through this yesterday. So I went shopping with my wife for Christmas, right? To get it's her birthday as well. And we went into this new sort of like sensual sort of spa-y sort of shop that sold all of these like products, like smelly stuff. And this lady, she was looking back, she was absolutely fantastic, absolutely nailed it. She was attentive. She took us through, made us wash with all these products in this lovely, luxurious sink, and we're all going through it. And I walked out with everything, shower gel, beard gel, shaving foam, literally everything that I could possibly do. And I come out absolutely buzzing. I've just spent an absolute fortune, but I felt serviced. Does that make sense? I felt like I've got everything I need. Yeah, I'm happy with that, I'm pumped. But then what I noticed is that two of the other sales reps, there was other people in there, and they didn't even approach the other people. Whereas I was getting treated like I was a rock star. She's squirting all this on me. My wife's, she's like, put your coffee down, really going to town with us on it. And it just shows, though, that the salesperson can make or break that relationship, because I'm not going anywhere else now. I'm going to go there every time, But the other people that were in the shop that maybe didn't get that experience probably won't go back.
That is a great story. Yes. And there's so much we could super unpack that, but I think that is a perfect example. So set a no goal. Do it after you create your no awareness, set a goal for the number of no's you're going to collect for a week. Do a 21-day challenge, see how many you can collect in 21 days, and then adjust accordingly. But keep setting that no goal. If you find that you're meeting it easily, then it needs to be higher. If you find that it's really hard to get good no's, it's okay. You can set a no goal to just get one a day. Imagine how your business would change if you just got one. You paid attention, you had that awareness, and you just got one no a day. 365 no's at the end of the year. How many of those would end up being yeses that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise? So that's a really fun, 2022 challenge to think about. And then the final point here is to execute on those go for no moments, to ask. And I know that seems like, well, Andrea, you've been saying that all along. Yes, but it is we have to remember that our brains are here to protect us, and your brain freaks out in those go for no moments. It's going to come up with all the reasons why you shouldn't ask. It's going to come up with all the excuses. It's going to tell you that you're being pushy and that people aren't going to like you. When you're always doing it in the person's best interest, and you can articulate why it's in their best interest, you can say, I'm recommending this because I think you would like this, because if you like that, you'd also like this, right? If we can articulate that and share that outwardly to the customer, or even in our own mind, then we always know we're doing the right thing. And that's the key. So my final point is to tap into your courage. You have to take action on this thing. There's no waiting. There's no, I'm going to wait till I don't feel fear about asking. I'm going to wait till I somehow have more confidence and my voice isn't shaking and I feel calmer. You have to be willing to fail. There's a little model in our book. It's a very simple model. Failure and success, we've been taught and trained that they're opposites, that one's over here, and we want to move towards success and away from failure. We don't want to fail. The process is actually reverse. We are on one end. Failure, rejection, hearing the word no, messing up, falling on our face, embarrassing ourselves is in the middle, and the success that we're seeking is on the other side. It's how all successful people operate. You see it, it's almost these cliche sayings like fail forward. What does fail forward mean? It means having courage and taking action. That is what failing forward means. We say fail forward, fail fast, do it quickly, get it over with, move to the next no. And so the whole key here is that you can't wait until you somehow feel courageous. It just is about taking action. So in those go for no moments, don't make assumptions, as I discussed, and don't talk yourself out of it. You have to just execute. And that's the 3-step process, everybody. So it's just really create a no awareness, set a no goal, and take action, no matter what your crazy brain, your fear-filled brain trying to protect you says. You have to ignore it.
Wow, amazing. And there, I think we could literally, even though it's such a small book, we've hardly scratched the surface on that either, which is fantastic because, everyone needs to go out and get that. I believe you can buy it on Amazon. I'm sure that's where I got mine from. There's so much. It's not complicated, but there's a lot more in the book that will liberate that thought process, isn't there? I definitely believe so. And I want to throw a little challenge out, as you just sort of gave 3 actionable steps there to do. I know that people watching this, right, a lot of them won't even be asking for the sale, right? They'll send their proposal off like they do and then they leave it and they forget about it. So my challenge, my call to action for them people now is go back through the last 2 weeks in your diary of where you've been, the quotes that you've sent, and ring them up. Ring them up now and ask them, are you still in the market? Is there anything else we can provide, and get that no, or hopefully get that yes, one or the other. So that's my little direct call to action for the people watching. So
I love that. Yes, that is absolutely, so many people just don't even ask in the most basic level. So there's so much opportunity out there. I'm glad you called that out, Wayne. And I'm glad I was able to do this with you and to meet you and to have you as such a go for no advocate.
Yeah, well, I certainly am now, and I've got 3 other copies coming for other people in my team, so they can read it themselves and get to know it. And I'm going to be recommending it to all of my clients because I coach other small businesses as well. So it's going to be on our hit list of books that people have to get when they join up to work with me. And I believe you do lots of other things as well. You're not just the author of a book. So do you want to share with us some of the other things that you do with the training and stuff that you do?
Oh, right. Yeah. So we have the Go for No book. I'm really proud of Richard and I, after the book came out, and once it was where we finally hit #1, we decided that we would do a CD program back in the day when everybody listened to CDs, and we just over the last couple of years transitioned to an online course, which of course are so popular these days. But we have one, and that's gofornocourse.com. And it has it goes into depth. A lot of the things that I've covered today are in there said differently, right? This was a training that I did obviously off the top of my head. So kind of organically, the course takes a lot of the concepts and they're kind of bite-sized modules in all areas, selling, mindset, all of that. So we're really proud of that, and that's going to be my focus in 2022. Is I think I can help the most people by getting them into that course. We have a private Facebook group. So every day I do daily motivation, which I say people need, Zig Ziglar said you need motivation daily. So we do motivation.
Okay, excellent. I like that. That's a good little spin on it. So, is there any closing points you want to make? I think you've covered everything, to be honest. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I think so. I think just if you can remember if you wrote those action steps down, do it. And please let me know what results you get. And it's fun when you start doing it. It just takes a lot of the pressure off. You realize you don't have to take no quite so seriously. Wouldn't you say, Wayne? Yeah,
definitely, 100%. What the biggest sort of I think there's loads of biggest things I've said, but one of them was like, what am I scared of? Like what? Yeah, they say no, or they go with my so-called competitor. Well, does it matter? It doesn't, does it? And one last point. Sorry, I know we're closing off, but another thing that I think is very important, I really want people to understand this, is that when you... I've lost the train of thought that I was trying to go there. There was a very valid point I was trying to make. I don't want to mess it up because it was very interesting. But my mind's gone blank. Where was I going with it? My mind's gone. I'm going to have to post it in the comments because I was saving it up for the ending, and now my mind's gone.
Oh, no, that happens to me all the time. Well, you know what? People will have to, there's something, and it's going to be really good, and it's going to be in the comments. Now they're going to have to find it.
They're going to have to go and look for it. Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Andrea. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to make sure all the links to your website and to you guys on your social medias and to get the book are all going to be surrounding this episode. Thanks again for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
I really hope you enjoyed the show. I just wanted to pull it out there for anyone listening that I offer business coaching, but also life coaching. My life is centered around something called the 3 Bs, which stands for body, business, and balance. When you work with me as a coach, we tackle all 3 aspects of life. So you as an individual, body, mindset, health, fitness, knowledge, education. Business B obviously stands for your business, improving, maximizing opportunities, elevating, making more money. And balance stands for your friends, family, loved ones, making time for everything in your life. And the 3 Bs is the core element to that. If you'd like to learn more, I would ask you to reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you might be consuming my information. Or you can email me directly at wayne@offthetools.co.uk. I'm here waiting to assist you to elevate across all aspects of life. Have a good one. No excuses. Let's go.